Hey everybody, it's December 22nd, 2007. I am Sonic Sons. I know it's been a little while since my last video. That happens. So my next topic, international auxiliary languages. And the idea of this is all around the world, everybody speaks all these different languages, and this makes certain aspects of communication, namely international communication, very hard. So wouldn't it be nice if everyone spoke the same language? And not necessarily unlearning languages we currently learn, but let's say we were all bilingual, we had this auxiliary language, right, this backup or secondary language as the term auxiliary goes, and whatever this IAL is, we could all learn this one thing, and then when we want to communicate internationally, we'd have this one international language to communicate with, while still keeping our regular national languages for whatever reasons we feel like keeping them, right? And of course no one would be pressured even to learn this IAL, just that there would be something that, say, international travelers or people on the internet and stuff could use to communicate with each other. That'd be very nice. The question is, which language would you use for that purpose? Now, in history, whoever happens to be in charge at the moment has their language used as a semi-IAL. Right now it's English, because there was the British Empire, and now there's America as the big powerful person on the block. And we speak English, right? So, all of the languages of the world, we have a certain knack for being international, at least despite our numbers anyway, you know. So I'm sure there are a whole lot of people speaking, well, the various versions of Chinese, for instance, because of the population of that country. But you know, you go to Paris, you go to the hotel and you'll find, you know, if it's it's like a Marriott or something, people will speak English there because they get a good amount of, you know, people speaking English, and because of the influence in these various things. Here's the problem though: English is hard to learn unless you're born with it. Practically every natural language is really hard to learn unless you've been brought up with it. The Asian languages like Japanese, which I'm studying, which on some levels is simpler, but on the other levels it has like the craziest writing system ever. I've already memorized like 300 characters, which is fine, except that there are like thousands of other characters, and those are not fine, and they're called kanji, and they're Anyway, and in English we have like our tenses, you know, we have to go. Okay, any language has that. And then we have going, which is present progressive, which not every language has. Like Japanese, for instance, essentially has past tense, and then they have present and or future tense. They just have those two. We have past, present, future. Present progressive, going, will be going. That makes it future progressive, or would have been going. And then you can even use going as like another thing in itself, as in, I would have been going to do something, and then you could split the infinitive, and like, I would have been going to do more than he, but he was more productive than I. What? And not to mention this crazy spelling, pH equals F for some reason. So, anybody who goes into this says to themselves, alright, well, probably the easiest thing to do is to create a language from scratch. And this is actually apparently not that hard, because there are dozens of languages, it turns out, created by scratch. Some of them created by just like one guy who uses it just for his like one journal or whatever. You know, wow. You must have a thing for languages. But other people are using this for constructive languages, to use as IELTS, international auxiliary languages, or as a matter of fact, just constructed languages for the heck of it. We're not going to get into those for now. The most popular of these is Esperanto, and this dates back to 1887. Yay, Wikipedia. And the word Esperanto means, I'm told, the one who hopes, or I believe it also means I hope. Anyway, the guy who wrote it was hoping that this would all work out. And so it's got this very regular grammar. You see this in constructed languages a lot. It's got stuff like every singular noun ends with an O, and every plural noun ends with O, J. I'm trying to do the whatever. So, you know, just by looking at the last letter, or the last two letters, because of the plural thing, it's a slight thing, but still, basically, you know, it's a noun and ends with an O. Cool. And then there's similar things for like adjectives and versus something like adjectives all end with an I and verb ends with an E, something like that, you know. And it's very, very, very regular that way. And words, furthermore, are composed of smaller parts. So mal is the prefix meaning opposite, and they use it for all versions of opposite. In English, we have like un, dis, a, an, anti, not. It's not a prefix, but it's used similarly. And they just have mal, which you can add on to the beginning of any word, and it means the opposite of what it was going to mean otherwise. So that's interesting. So Esperanto is known to a lot of people. As far as you speak it, not a lot. And the people who do speak it tend to exaggerate the number of people that do speak it, as far as I'm aware. I mean, I'm not saying they're all lying, but it's hard to measure these things. And so I've read into this. Apparently, you know, they'll claim this number in terms of, no, actually, I think it's this number, maybe lower, maybe, you know. It's hard to verify these things. But it may be on par to the number of people who speak Hebrew, which is to say practically no one on the world scale, but there is, yeah, someone. You could have a conversation in Esperanto if you looked around for people. You won't exactly see Esperanto signs at your local airport or whatever, but anyway. So there's Esperanto, right? And there's an offshoot of that called eye-doe, which is meant to change several things. One of the things Esperanto has, which is kind of weird, is, well, actually, first off, one of the things it has, which is good, is every letter is exactly one sound, and every sound is exactly one letter, which is very nice. We don't have this weird thing with, like, you know, if you say civil servant in English, like the C out of civil is pronounced like an S for some reason, and C, like in carrot, sounds like a K, actually. So why we have a C at all, I don't know. Just use an S or a K, why don't you? So everything is one sound per letter, one letter per sound, a 1-to-1 ratio on that. Thing is, he wanted to use a few more letters than he otherwise had, or he got rid of a few and added a few more, and the ones he added on were like, it's a letter that already exists with this weird symbol on top, which is kind of hard to type. I mean, you can go for Shift 6, I guess, and do the caret symbol, but that gets kind of weird, and, you know, people weren't expecting that. And so the people in eye-doe said, hey, look, why don't we just use the regular Latin alphabet as it is? Practically all these use the Latin alphabet because that's the most popular alphabet there is, and what would make a better alphabet, you know? And how exactly do you improve that? I don't know. Though you look at Elaksh, and you'll find an entirely different system of writing. That is the craziest language I've ever heard of, Elaksh. And so the eye-doe people said, okay, we're going to get rid of the weird caret mark thingies, and we're going to do regular letters. What we're going to do, you know, sort of a trade-off, is there will be a couple of digraphs, as they call them, which means two letters together, which means something other than they otherwise would have meant. Sort of how the C and the H make a ch for no really apparent reason. Which is kind of weird that they have digraphs, but overall, I think eye-doe makes a fair amount of sense. They do several other things. Esperanto has a male bias, for one thing. It has several things where, like, a male gender is implied, there's a special suffix to mean female, and in eye-doe, generally it's neutral, and there's a male suffix and a female suffix, and little, you know, clean up things like that. So the eye-doe people are also trying to advance their own language.